It's dark this morning. Hey, good morning. There we go. Couldn't figure out why it was so dark. Maybe it's my plants that I have in the way. I have a darn thing in the way. Um, Good morning. How are you this morning? Thank you for joining live. If you're here for the very first time, my name's Amber. Timmy's fixing himself some coffee because, as the title states, this is live coffee chat. And you can't have coffee chat without your coffee. So, good morning. It's a beautiful day today. I don't know if y'all saw the Northern Lights with um, the CME that was going off last night. They said that we're going to be able to. What you looking for? Oh, I left the coffee on the burner. Um, they said that we should be able to see it tonight. Sherry just shared that with us, our friend, between, I think she said between 10. Good morning. Um, Hang on. Let me see when she said. I can't remember now. We're talking about the Northern Lights, y'all. If you just joined us. Between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. I've seen some amazing, beautiful pictures on the internet. I was sleeping. I was exhausted. I told Timmy, I said, we should get up and try to see it. No, it didn't happen. Um, so, anyways, that's what it is. If you're just joining us for the very first time, we apologize in advance. This is nothing scripted. We just chit chat with friends over coffee. This pretty much it. No bells, no whistles, no nothing else. We share what's going on in our lives. We fellowship about our faith. We ask questions. Sometimes we just goof around.
That's right.
Speaking of goofing around, what is going? There you go. Good morning. Oh
It's
goodness.
all right.
So we were talking about the Northern Lights. I'll show you pictures later on. Shocking. That's all I got to say.
So they're in the north.
Anyhow, it's a beautiful week. We've been sick. I've going on 9 days, 10 days maybe. It's been crazy. And I got sick right before my birthday. No, I got sick a week before my birthday. Timmy got sick on my birthday. So we kind of like to share these things. And it's just that whatever summer cold thing we got going on. Love it. It's great. It wasn't quite as debilitating as normal, but just made us feel like junk for a week. So we haven't really got a lot done.
Yeah, I was surprised because the pollen and everything seems like it's kind of settled, but
It wasn't allergies,
it
Joker. It was
wasn't.
a
I
sickness.
don't know what it was.
Well, for me, I can't speak for you, although you stayed in bed for 3 days and wouldn't get up because you were dying. He was dying. Right now, it's like, oh, I don't know what it was. On my birthday and the day after, I was dying. So, unless you can die from allergies, but I had fever for 4 days, 3 to 4 days. I had fever, achy to touch, congested throat, felt like I was swallowing razor blades. Um, it was crappy feeling. But I didn't stop. I never took a nap, just kept on working and made it through. Unlike Mr. Dying over here. If y'all guys watching this, don't act like babies when you get sick. Nobody got time for that. I'm so glad to see you upright and smiling. Yeah, I've stayed upright. Unlike some people I know who are dying when they get sick. Unfortunately, my world doesn't stop when I get sick. Although I was talking to one of our members at church the other day, and he's like, "Where's Timmy?" I said, "Oh, he's dying. He's sick." He goes, "Oh yeah." He goes, "Guys are like that. We just can't handle sickness like y'all can." He goes, "It affects our bodies differently." I'm like, I was at church, otherwise I would have called BS on him. And then he goes, "But my wife babies me." I said, "Oh, I don't. I don't baby you. Do I baby you when you sick? Get sick?
She makes me feel bad.
I take care of
I
you.
mean,
I
you take
don't
care of
baby
me, but
you."
you just I don't know. It just
Because he
made me feel
moans.
bad.
He'll sit there, and I know he's sick. I'm taking care of
It's
all
like
of his ailments. I can't cure him.
Nurse
And
Nurse Ratchet.
I just don't baby him. Because I'll be waiting on him hand and foot, and he'll like, I'm like, especially when the previous 7 days I got zero sympathy. Zero. It's like, are we still going to do this? Are we still going to do that? I mean, it was zero sympathy. Nice work you got going on there, honey. All right, we'll get off of that.
It's uncomfortable, man. I don't know what to say.
So, y'all, last week and the week before, we talked about fire safety and how we were going to get to it. And here we are. A couple weeks ago, Sherry, correct me if I'm wrong. Good morning, Steve. How are you, brother? Steve, I love the stuff you've been sharing in the group. I just got to say, the group has become phenomenal. I gave y'all a link last week, I think, for our Mighty Network group. The amount of knowledge and the community in there is just, it feels like home. That's what my friend Sherry, another Sherry, said last week. She got booted out, something with her computer, and she says, they feel like family. It feels like home, and I miss it, and I need to get back. And it's just a great place of folks sharing like-minded information. I'll drop the link again if y'all want to join. But Steve is my partner with that group in Mighty Network. So I was going to say he's the admin, but he's not. He's my partner. And he is an admin, but that just doesn't seem like a good enough title. And it's more his group than it is mine. And it's amazing the knowledge that's being shared in there. So if you guys want to dive deeper into herbs, cooking, livestock, homesteading, foraging, your faith and fellowship, geez, what a homeschooling, crafts, join our Mighty Network group. It's a social media platform, but we're the only group in there. There's no commercials or anything else. We don't make money off of it. So this isn't one of those plugs where we try to sell stuff. It's a free community. And we just invite you to be a part of it. But anyhow, so we go to a prepper group. Tell them about our prepper group that we go to the third Sunday of every month, Timmy.
Well, it's a great
Over here.
prepper group, and there's a good bit of people that show up, and we're all like-minded,
For the
and
most part.
for the most part, yeah. And there's always questions of things that we just don't quite get the grasp on, and we have different instructors that come and speak, and
It's an educational thing, but a lot of it's centrally located around the prepper theme, prepping for whatever, enter a title in the blank.
Yeah.
And this week happened to be about fire-wise communities and safety. And Walt's son, Walt, came and shared with us. He works for the fire department, and the young man, I can't remember his name now, that was with him. They both work for the fire department, and his father, Walt, used to be chief of the fire department here locally. And they own the health food store in town, and they teach on herbs and natural remedies. So he really was a plethora of information that we could have just sat there and gleaned from. Young gentleman, super, super, and nice and very educated. And it was an amazing experience. And we wanted to share what we learned with y'all.
Yeah, he gave us a lot of facts and very important information that we need to know around the home or land, and it doesn't matter where you are. There's always fire safety.
Well, and I think for here, it's even more important for us because we live in the middle of nowhere. We have had to call the fire department before. We've had to call 911 before since being here. And it takes them a skinny minute to get here. I mean, it takes us 5 minutes just to get to our mailbox. What did he say the response time needs to be 3 minutes or less?
Yeah.
And for a fire. And if
Yeah.
it takes us 5 minutes to get to our mailbox, nobody's coming to save us. I mean, they might come after the fact that it's all said and done and we're looking at ashes. They will get here, to take one of us to the hospital or all of us or what have you. But this is something because we live so remotely, it's very important that we do everything that we can to protect our own home
Yeah,
and our animals
yeah.
and our homestead.
And I remember him saying that there was 7 minutes in there from a fire that could really get out of hand, and it's pretty much
I took notes.
and that's that's kind of scary when you have just
So little time to protect
so little
everything.
time.
And that goes back to when we were talking about bug out bags and everything, y'all. People think, oh, well, I don't believe in zombies. I don't think aliens coming. China's not going to invade. Blah blah blah. Those bug out bags and get home bags aren't just for the a SHTF situations. They're for everyday life emergencies. Like if you've got a fire in your home and the first thing you should do is get your children and your animals and have that bug out bag right by the door and grab it and go. And in your bug out bag should be a copy of all of the important documents that you need, birth certificate, social security card, a copy of your deed, your insurance forms, your medical history should all be protected in that bug out bag so you can grab it and go. And in there is also, some extra cash, some food, water bottles, the things that you need to survive. And this is a perfect example of the reason why you need those. But anyhow, well, another thing too is y'all know we don't have a well up here. We have an artesian well on our property. We do collect rainwater, but we don't have city water. And even our well is limited. I mean, it's limited in terms of it has a safety shut off for the pump. It'll recover, but we can only pump out 90 gallons of water in it before it shuts down. 90 gallons ain't nothing to take out a house fire. So these are all things that, that's kind of like the aha moment that we need to be aware of as far as the safety in our home. And he was talking about now they used to have, y'all might have thought, her, 100-foot perimeter. And our friend Shane, lives out in Idaho. His family of he has 15 children. He was a single dad. It's a long story, but it wasn't too long after Zach flew to help us here with our build, or right before it,
Yeah.
that their entire house burnt down. And it was like, boop. He goes,
Actually, they were working on it
when he came here to help us. And which is just such a true testimony of the character of that family. But he said it was minutes. The whole house was on flames and they could save nothing. And he goes, I went and cut every tree within 100 feet of our home. And it used to be, and that's good, especially when you've been devastated by something so horrific. But they said now it's 30 feet is recommended. And I'm going to he gave this, I'll see if you can show it. If you see these perimeter lines right here, you have your different zones. They call it, excuse me, you have like zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3. And then he was going, excuse me, within zone 1 it's like the home ignition zones. That's everything that will ignite from 0 to 5 feet around the house. Then you have your intermediate zone, is everything from 5 to 30 feet, and then you have your extended zone from 30 to 100 feet. And be when whichever zone that is, that's things how far you should keep things away from your home. And he said anything from 0 to 5 feet should be like you should be on top of that 100%. No firewood by your house, nothing that can ignite like pine straw, dry mulch, hay bales, flammables, your gas cans, your propane tanks, all of that should be at least 30 feet away from your home. We fail on that.
Yeah, and I heard him use a phrase. They call it hardening the area around your house, and within that, 0 to 5 feet, the mulch and stuff like that, people usually have around their house is, flammable. And they recommend rocks and just having the flammable bushes and things like that.
Removed.
Yeah, removed. And
Speaking of, that's something that I had never heard. Sherry, if you're still with us, chime in because she was there too. Is especially here in East Tennessee, he goes, your waxy plants and vegetation you should not have by your home because they can ignite quicker and spread hotter and faster.
Yeah.
And things such as your rhododendrons, your magnolias, your mountain laurels, which our mountain is covered with those. He goes, those things are so flammable. And he goes, they'll just take right off. And he says you can get flame resistant or low flame igniting plants. Never knew there was such a thing. He said you should be able to contact your local extension agency. And I want to research that further. And I'm so glad you brought that up because I'm like, I never thought about plants being flammable or they have a bigger chance of increasing fire spreading around my property. Never thought. Dry, like grass and stuff. Yeah, get it. Plants, especially native plants, never heard of it. Now you know. What was he saying about your end caps and stuff in your crawl space on your house?
Yeah, your gables. Um,
He says because embers are what causes how it causes to spread. All of your embers.
Anytime you have a gable on the end of the house,
Yes, elephant ear. Sorry.
It draws air in to move that air like in the attic and upstairs. So what he wanted us to do is put a
Wire mesh.
1/8 wire mesh, and what that does is that reduces that ash or that ember from getting drawn into that vent.
We don't have that on ours,
Because usually if an attic space, it will be open for airflow, and then you'll have insulation laying down on the the floor.
Same thing with crawl spaces. He said though the 1/8 wire mesh to put on there to stop the embers from going in.
Very important for any kind of fresh air vent, that gets drawn into the house because embers can get sucked in and start a fire.
Another thing they were saying, well, as far as your propane and your gas cans and all that, keep them 30 feet away from your house. We don't do that. We need to do that. So hearing some, you would think it's common sense, but anything that's flammable like that, you need to keep 30 feet away from your house. Another thing that they didn't really talk about, but I used to when I was in Polly's, is the firefighters there will say the most dangerous place in most people's house is right under the sink. Because what do you keep right under your kitchen sink? All of your cleaners. And all of those are flammable and combustible.
Yeah.
And that's why we like making our own non-toxic household cleaners. And all you need is vinegar and baking soda and elbow grease, and that's it. And but yeah, that's one of the most dangerous places for firefighters in your home is underneath that kitchen sink. Because that's where they store the chemicals. So if you're making a fire wise home, is to remove all those chemicals, put them out in the shop. You don't need them every single day. If those are the ones that you want to use, put them 30 foot away. And the propane, he was saying, put it 30 foot away from your house, which we don't have and we need to. This is a good little reminder. Yeah. Because, again, we live so remotely and it would take our house would be gone by the time anybody could get here. So we need to be fire wise and remove these things that could cause us to lose our home, especially since we have so many fireplaces. Excuse me, and only heat with fire.
Yeah.
And when 2016, if y'all remember those horrific fires that came through Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge and everything, and destroyed thousands and thousands of acres and killed, I don't know, you won't find that part in the news, but the locals all say it was over 40 people that got trapped in the buildings and stuff in Gatlinburg. And the whole community was devastated. And it just like, boop, just like that.
Yeah.
One of the other things too, he was saying that And this is what surprised me when we moved here. The biggest fire danger is between October and May. We're almost at the end of it. It's May 15th, I think it is. And that's because the humidity level is low. So when the humidity level is below 20%, that's when you have, or, I think he said 20%. Sherry, correct me if I'm wrong. That's when there's the greater chance. He goes, even if the ground is wet, that's when there's greater chance of having a fire. But in the summertime, when the humidity is like 70, 80, 90%, it's less chance of fires and spreading. So one wouldn't think, I would have never thought that it was during the wintertime when we had snow and all that, that the fires would spread more and it would be a harder, um, it would be a worse time for fire spread. But we've had a lot of fires here this year, a lot of
Yeah, yeah.
wildfires.
It'll definitely wake you up, and you know
It concerns you.
it
So
does.
your immediate zone, 0 to 5 feet all around your house. That's cleaning out your gutters, removing anything that an ember could catch fire. So whether it's a bunch of rags that you got by your house, whether it's pine straw, any of those waxy plants that we were talking about, and look more into that with your local extension agency. Your firewood stacks, I know we all like to keep them close so we don't have to walk. Get those 30 feet away from your house. Put your wire mesh on your ridge cap and your end caps. Leaf litter. You got those little, piles of leaves everywhere that you've been meaning to clean up, that you're just waiting for them to decompose. Get those out the way. Install firewise plants and mulch. She was saying rubber mulch. I don't agree with that. Don't be putting that toxic stuff around your house. Use rocks. Remove any flammable material and also propane, gas cans, and chemicals. Limbs. And then here's another one that I didn't think of. He was saying trim on all the bottoms of your that are close to your home, 6 to 10 foot up from the bottom up. South Carolina, they used to do a lot of controlled burns all the time. That
Yeah.
was really weird for me to see.
So you can burn that up, that layer of what do you
We
call it?
used to have, it was just, grass, but vegetation.
Yeah, on the top of the ground. They burn it off, and it gets rid of it, and then new grass and stuff grows.
But that's
And
actually good for the soil too.
it is. And what it does is it keeps it
The
from,
biocore
once it,
helps.
if you, years and years of leaf buildup on the ground could, it could cause a fire to
Especially when humidity is
burn
low.
that much harder and spread quicker. So
It
it's,
said 20% humidity is 20% humidity or less is extreme fire hazard. So another thing that we were talking about when it comes to homesteads and with us too is that's a huge risk is our hay barns where we store our hay and our compost bins. Now, it's been all the craze in the last decade or so how people use compost to heat up their water, free hot water. But it's also very dangerous, so everyone's thinking, compost is so eco-friendly. It is, but you also have to maintain it. You just can't keep throwing junk in a pile and wait for it to break down and use the soil. It takes work. Matter of fact, our son works at the local recycling center, and it's the biggest around. And they've actually won awards nationwide. It's horribly run, it's horribly maintained. But on the outside, people fly in from all over to see how they're doing it. And his recycling center, the compost area, catches fire all the time. All the time. It's there. He's works in such a dangerous environment. And the reason for that is one, it's enclosed. So if you have a compost, don't keep it enclosed. Have a lot of air circulating. Two, their excuse me, their surface ratio isn't good enough for the amount of piles they have. So they have all their compost in one pile looking like a pyramid instead of spreading it out so the heat can release. Instead, the heat gets trapped. And one of the things that's a misconception is people have this big old compost pile and they put water on it to, oh, it'll be safe, it'll cool down if it's water. that's wrong information. The water actually helps it ignite, believe it or not, because it seals that heat into where it can't escape. You need to have a large surface for your compost, means don't put a whole bunch in an itty bitty little pile pyramid out there. You need to spread it out more. You need to turn it constantly, and you need to have a good balance between brown and green material, because that's what they were saying about the hay, why it combusts, because people bale it too quickly before it has a chance, the green has a chance to age.
Yeah.
That's what causes that to catch on fire. Matter of fact, when the internal temperature of hay rises above 130 degrees Fahrenheit, it provokes a chemical reaction producing flammable gases that can ignite. Most hay fires occur within 6 weeks of baling. Heating occurs in all hay above 15% moisture, but generally peaks at 125 to 130 degrees. Uh, excuse me,
Mm.
within 3 to 7 days, with minimum risk of combustion, for or forage quality being lost. In the next 15 to 60 days, depending on the stack density, external temperatures, humidity, and rainfall, and the internal temperature will decline to a safe level. So it's that, and then you should be checking. Like if you have livestock and you have hay bales, you should be checking that temperature daily. We have a little heat gun, and you can even walk by it and put your hand on it. You want to have good air circulation around your hay. You want to either buy it when it's not been freshly baled, or wait, if you're bale yourself, to the appropriate amount of time for that moisture to decrease and for it to age before you bale it. And you want to monitor it.
So anyway, we live here in Tennessee, and it's coming up on, some people will be cutting their
I
hay.
think I've seen some doing their first cuts already.
And what they'll do is they'll let it lay there for a couple of days.
Longer than that sometimes.
Well, anyway, and then they'll go out and bale it, rake it up in the rows, and then they'll bale it. And so what we've pretty much always done is we've stored it, and we just kind
Ours
of,
is an open area.
it's open, and we just kind of, I flip it every now and then just to see what it looks like and feels like.
And if it's
And
too hot, you have those
so
little, you can get one of those little thermometers, those heat guns, less than $15 to check the temperature. And the temperature, if you didn't know, you can look it up yourself. But so at 150 degrees, if that's what your hay is at, you need to check it daily. At 160 degrees. You need to check the temperature every 4 hours and inspect the stacks. At 175 degrees, remove it from the barn or dismantle the stack away from the other bales. At 185 degrees, you'll get hot spots, and flames will most likely develop. And at 212 degrees, that is critical, and your hay will ignite. So there you go. And you can just look that up online.
yeah.
Um, but the same thing goes with compost. Now, you want to, if you have a compost pile, which most of us do, I'm assuming if you're homestead, most of us got a, or even if you're a gardener, most of us have a compost pile. Make sure you have that good balance between brown and green material. Make sure you have good air circulation around it. Make sure that you're out there with your pitchfork or whatever and you stir it often. And same thing, have your little heat gun and go and measure it, because not only that would it be a fire hazard, but you want those beneficial bacteria and microbes in there breaking it down. If it gets too hot, you're going to kill all them, and you're
Yeah.
just going to have stagnant, nasty compost.
Yeah.
Same thing with manure piles. So um those are things that we all need to be aware of as far as keeping our home safe. And the other thing that he was talking about is water. Y'all know how much water is important to us. And this was supposed to be the year of the water. It's the year of the rain so far, but it has not been able to be the year of the water because life. And if y'all watched last weekend, now our life outside of being sick is turned into fencing for our livestock guardian dogs. Um, but he was saying their small trucks only carried, what was it, 300, 500 gallons of water. And oh, here we go. He said you need roughly 800 to 1,000 gallons of water stored per 100 square foot of your home to put out a house fire. So you can do the math on that. If you have 1,000 square foot home, you need 10,000 gallons of water stored to put out a fully engulf, a full house fire. And the size pump that they have is 500 gallons per minute. He was talking about getting a portable pump. You want 100 to 125 gallons per minute for your own personal portable pump. What did he say? Oh, and here's another thing for us mountain folks. He said you need your road, and this is something that we hadn't thought about. You need your clearance for their fire trucks to get to you, at least 12 foot wide and 15 foot tall. So if you got a bunch of low hanging limbs or whatever, all of this can impede their ability to get to you to help you put out your fire. So you need to make sure that you've got that 15-foot clearance going all the way to your house from the road.
Yeah.
And make sure your road is marked. You might want your privacy, but they need to find you.
Yeah, that's a very important subject. Is them,
Being able to find you.
being able to get up at just say 2 o'clock in the morning. You're half asleep, and you jump in a truck and you take off, and you're trying to find where this fire is. And it might be back in the woods. You might live far, a good ways off the road.
Like us.
So that mailbox and that identification on the road
With
is
arrows.
very, very important.
Like I said, you might want your privacy, no one to find you, but if you got an emergency, believe
Yeah.
me, you want them with
Yeah.
you. And we actually have some examples of that we've had to live through during our lives. But the other one is to have your water storage. So we have, we've got a 4,000 gallon pool, and then we have several large water cisterns. We got 1,000 gallon water cistern up there. We got a 500 gallon water cistern there. We have another 275 gallon water cistern, 325 over here. And then we have 120 right here on our porch. So it's very, very important to have water storage. If you live remotely, you're not close to a fire hydrant, you don't have city water. And if you guys, during the emergencies, you might not have the ability to have water. Like when we went through hurricanes, they shut the water off because of all the broken pipes. So fires can still happen during that time.
Wow.
It's important to have your own water storage.
Yeah.
Another thing he says is to put a sprinkler, if you can have some type of sprinkler system on your roof that you could just tie a hose to. That's not practical for us right now, and it wouldn't be a good solution for us because of our water situation, but y'all might have a different situation than us. And hay, we talked about hay. I'm sitting here. Oh, and another thing, y'all, don't be one of those people that's just like you own your land, so you don't need to call for a burn permit. Nobody else does, so you're not going to either. There is nothing wrong. Like, I'm a big anti-government girl, all right? But I still respect those that spend their volunteer hours and time and safety people that want to come and help us in case of emergency. Call for a burn permit. It's an automated thing. You just call, put in your address, and done. They're not trying to tell you what to do, but it's for safety reasons. And then if your neighbor sees smoke and they call it in, the first thing they're going to do is look on their chart, see if there was a burn permit called. And if they see one for where that person called in the fire, they're like, oh, well, they got a burn permit. They're good.
Yeah, you could definitely save a lot of confusion when it comes to that. And you never know. Wind could pick up, the fire could get out of hand.
It could be a bad day for you to burn.
They know where you are. They've got your address, they've got your phone number, and
Yeah, call for that permit.
It could be all the difference in the world.
I was joking. When we first moved here, a good friend of ours lived here, and we were calling. I mean, we had a lot of land clear, and I'd call for that permit every day. And she goes, Amber, she goes, quit calling for the permit. She goes, you are wearing them boys out. She
Mhm.
she was teasing me because she goes, nobody around here does that. She goes, leave them alone. And I'm like, I was just that was what we had to do back south.
Yeah.
So but yeah, it's very, very important. There's measures that you can take to not put your whole family, your homestead, and your farm in harm's way. That some of it's a little tougher than others, like clearing all of the trees within 30-foot perimeter of your house. That part's important that we need to address ourselves. The other one is removing all the flammables in and around your home. Make sure you have a good, adequate water supply. Make sure any of your combustibles, like your hay and your compost piles, are properly maintained. We can get complacent and lazy, y'all. There's no reason. There's really no excuse. I mean, we're guilty of that.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's hard to just go out there and do everything at one time, but I mean, if you start and you work on it and do a little bit at a time, before you know it, you'll look around and you'll say, "Well, I'm ready," you know.
Your fire extinguishers,
Yeah.
your smoke detectors. Although I will say that we've
Hmm.
dismantled all of our smoke detectors because they go off every single time we light a fire. Um, every single time. If you guys know of a smoke detector that's a little less sensitive, that's good to use, please send us a comment. We'd appreciate that. Oh, I think that's it. If you guys have any fire safety tips to add for your home and keeping it protected, or an experience that you've had, drop it in the comments and let us know. Like I said, we had a couple experiences. One, Gavin was a baby, and it had to do with old electrical wiring into this place that I just moved into. And it literally, there was a fire in his bedroom where he was in there by himself. And a friend of ours that was helping us move grabbed Gavin and was running down the stairs screaming about the fire in the house. And we could have lost him like
Yeah.
that. And it all had to do with old wiring. And the previous tenant changed out the fuse because they were tired of tripping fuses, put a larger fuse in there than what needed to be so the breaker didn't trip. Instead, it caught fire. There's reasons that they have those safety measures in place.
Yeah.
And they could have killed my son because they were that lazy. But anyhow, so fire safeties are really it should be a concern for all of us. It shouldn't be something that we get to one day or we just ignore. It's something that we should be focused on from the get-go with our homestead.
Yeah.
Hint, hint, hint. Y'all, we're getting ready to go. I've got so much to do today. Tomorrow's Mother's Day.
Yeah. She's a
You know what
mother.
that was? Oh, I didn't plan anything.
She's a mother.
Yeah.
Let's just go to Dollywood.
We'll probably go to Dollywood. I like Dollywood. It's a fun place to be. It's a good family place. But I've got to work all day long. What is so funny?
Better than Hollywood.
Good gravy. Y'all have a blessed day. Have a great week. If you guys see any of those northern lights or you caught them last night, send me a picture. I want to live vicariously through your eyes.
Yeah.
Um, I was too tired, honestly, and we probably would have had an amazing view. So I need to figure out how to set the alarm tonight and see if I can't see it. But anyhow, y'all have a great day and thank you for joining us for
Thanks
coffee.
for watching.